2026, we've been talking about this for years, but now we're here. 26 is here. World Cup right around the corner.
Yeah, we're no longer talking about, hey, when 2026, yeah, we're in 2026. Now it's a matter of a countdown. I believe, we're counting down to that, countdown to another union season. Everything happens fast, and before you know it, it's going to be here.
Yeah, and we're seeing events. We're seeing all those things. The calendar kind of fill up. We know the draw. We know the teams. I guess what's the biggest question right now with the World Cup is like maybe who's going to be staying here locally?
Who's staying here? Who's going to pick the Union's site as their home base? Also, you have the playoffs still coming up, so we finish out the bracket here in Philly to know exactly who's coming here. And then also next week we have the Coaches Soccer Association convention happening here in Philly. There's going to be 6,000 soccer coaches in the city next week.
And we're going to have more on that because that is a really big deal coming up.
Yeah, we're hoping to be doing the show there live next week, so we'll stay tuned on that.
And talk about the countdown. The Union are getting ready for training camp. They're 52 days away from their home opener in Chester. And the offseason, well, busy doesn't begin to describe it. Big names now, big money in, major questions about what this roster is looking like moving forward. Mikel Uwa goes back to home to a Danish club. Kai Wagner off to England, Birmingham City. Jacob Glesnes, the LA Galaxy. Ty Baribo, DC United. Some very big questions about where this club is headed now. What does it all mean? What is the Union's identity? For answers, we bring in one of the most trusted voices covering the team, the guy constantly breaking stories for the Philadelphia Union, AAT sports beat writer for the Union, Jose Nunez. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, both of you. It's such a pleasure. Been following along and listening from time to time as I can, but you're absolutely right. What a busy offseason. It feels like it never stopped.
Yeah. It's, first of all, covering a team like this with so many, the transactions just over the last week, and they've been huge. This roster is not the same. What's it like for you covering this and trying to keep up with it all?
My goodness, I think I would say exciting. I kind of like the way and have liked, and I guess probably better said, I've accepted the way the Philadelphia Union function in terms of being willing to unearth some gems out in Europe, out in South America, and then when the time comes, it's okay to say goodbye, unlike some other teams across the league. So once you come to appreciate that, the finding gems and pushing them off to someone else, you kind of enjoy this time of year where you just don't know who's next and from where.
So it's hard to totally, I would say, criticize because there's been success. I mean, going into last year, if you would ask most fans or even pundits, how are they going to do? The expectations were not that high, yet they won a supporter shield. But you see this now. What is, do you think, the direction? What's the goal here? Because that's a lot of talent of a team that was, a favorite possibly to win the whole thing after winning the supporter shield going out the door.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what you see this offseason is a lot of, I hate to use the term shoveling off, but you see some salaries like Jacob Glesnes going to LA. That was a salary that, was going to continue to grow for the next few years that the Union maybe were not willing to pay. Mikel Uwa, who I guess the clubs finally announced the move today, maybe not a salary you want to pay for a designated player that comes off as a substitute. But I think that this is a move to get younger, hate to use the term cheaper, but certainly cheaper when it comes to the salary, but certainly start thinking about the next phase of what this club looks like in the next 5 to 6 years. I think you're right that last year it certainly surprised a lot of people, but when you actually stop and have eyes on someone like Jovan Lukic or Danley Jean-Jacques, that early bit of his stay with the Union right after, during Leagues Cup, I should say, you could probably tell that both of them were going to be incredibly successful here. Having now watched Ezekiel Alado in terms of film, who's coming in as a striker, I'm incredibly high on him, on what he's going to do, and certainly some unannounced moves that are coming, I believe, and certainly the moves that are already done with a Sundstrom, for example, coming from USL.
What were the biggest surprises on these moves from your perspective?
I must admit, when I started to hear the rumblings of the Kai Wagner move, I was shocked, but then in hearing more from sources about sort of the handshake agreement of, if something, please re-sign with us, and if something comes, we will honor the option, right? But Birmingham City, an interesting club, and I think the biggest surprise was just how important Tom Brady was to that whole thing. During that initial interview with Kai Wagner, I think he might have said Tom Brady 6 or 7 times. And in just talking with the press and other folks over there, it was such a big piece of it all. And I'm just happy for the guy. You know, he finally gets to play in Europe, and you could tell all along that he was destined to go back over there.
So when you look at the team, and obviously the folks that are critical are like, this is hard, why it's hard to get over the top, right? You don't add. There is an argument both ways. Do you think this style and this roster building could win a championship?
I think so. I think people forget that a Chris Zitterbart, who joined as the director of scouting just happened maybe a year or 2 ago, is now getting his feet on the ground, or has been getting his feet on the ground, really pushing some of these signings forward. Obviously, the change of style from Jim Curtin to Bradley Cornell, though not night and day, relatively similar, but certainly has its differences. Takes some time to develop, and sure, you could argue that 2025 was the exact way that they intended it to go, but they did it still with a roster that was built mainly with Jim Curtin targets and that face of the project. Now with Bradley Cornell better situated after a year, and maybe the scouting department having a better idea of what Bradley's looking for into this system, I have a hard time arguing with the players that they're bringing in, right? Again, Ezekiel Alado is going to be an unbelievable partner with Bruno Damiani up top. And I'm sure there's still some filling out to happen just yet.
Not many people knew much about Ezekiel Alado. You said you've been watching film. What makes you so impressed? That
physical nature of his is going to be great to complement what Bradley Cornell does, right? In terms of moving the ball forward as fast as possible and trying to force the opposition to a mistake. And if there's not a mistake to be made, the amount of pressure that he puts on the ball, the way that Bruno Damiani does as well, to have a 1-2 punch like that, I think will just really take that a step further in terms of, again, making the opposition cough it up. And it would have been Kai, but finding the ball for a Kai Wagner to throw across in quickly after the change in possession.
One announcement team made today wasn't exactly a new addition, but it's bringing back Alejandro Bedoya. And it's, you look at it as they move players out, it's somewhat surprising. They have a player who's been here for 11 years, but you look at the signing, it's not just a player, it's part of the front office. So you can talk a little bit about what he brings to the team overall.
Yeah, I think you could argue more than ever, especially with all of the departures, especially with Glesnes, now Ua. His experience is just, you can't avoid looking at that and putting some more weight behind it, right? In terms of, 11 years. It's an incredible feat for a club that's going into its 17th, I believe. But also in helping this next generation, or this next phase of Philadelphia Union, the project, as I like to call it, sort of hit the ground running. I must admit, I did not expect it. I'm not trying to retire the man, but considering the way that things and departures were happening, I would have thought that maybe he goes more into the business side and just focuses on the other ventures that he has. But he's been nothing but pleasant to me and other reporters, and I, as a South American, love what he tries to do with the Latino population in terms of bringing them back, or bringing them to Subaru Park and bringing them back when they come to watch some of the Latin American teams. So thumbs up for me, and let's see if it goes beyond a year. It feels like maybe time's running out, but again, I'm not trying to retire the guy.
Seems like he's a glue guy. Like, he keeps the guys together. He's one of everyone needs a glue guy.
Yeah, and I think you have it on both ends of the spectrum, right? With, as I understand, and Jovan Lukic is an incredible character in that locker room, and then you have maybe an older guy like Alejandro Bedoya, who can be that voice in that bridge with Bradley Cornell. And make no mistake, I don't know anything, but Andre Blake is coming back, so that's another big piece of experience that's remaining within the squad, and someone that. And Andre Blake that could be playing a World Cup match here as well.
All right, we're going to talk more about Philadelphia Union and World Cup coming up. Exciting stuff. Really good year ahead for Philadelphia and the soccer community. Don't go away. More brotherly love. FC coming back after the break. Welcome back. Sports trading cards, collectibles, they are as big as ever. That includes soccer cards. You a collectible guy?
I am. I'm a bit of a collectible guy. Yeah,
you do cards?
I have in the past. Yeah, I still have a good amount of them. Yeah, And
Worth
soccer cards
anything?
are huge. I know, because you know why? Because I collect the Philadelphia stuff, and none of the, all the Phillies from my youth were not good. So yeah, but the collectibles are huge. And one of the big things right now are signed cards. And they a lot of times with someone's debut, they'll take a patch off their jersey, and it's a 1-of-1. So Kevin Sullivan recently had a chance to sign his 1-of-1 debut card, and the Union shared the video.
It's so thin. Like there's not a lot of room for error.
You got this.
And then watch
ask you a
this.
couple questions.
Okay.
Awesome. Want to show me the card? How does it feel to sign your first ever rookie debut patch card?
I was nervous, not a lot of room for error, but I thought I did pretty well. Excited and definitely honored.
Jose Nunez back with us. I know you've talked to Kevin Sullivan before. First of all, getting my first thought, what's he, 16? Is he 16?
I think so.
My first thought with watching that is he hasn't perfected his autograph
No, if you know
yet.
any 16-year-old, I have a 16-year-old.
They're
they
practicing.
can't write whatsoever. They don't write.
Oh.
They don't write penmanship anymore. So like
Right.
signing the name, like my 18-year-old, when she starts doing checks, it's like you got to come up with a signature because they don't do it in school anymore.
I just keep thinking, I mean, my daughter, I have two 16-year-old daughters, that age, they're in love with Kevin Sullivan. I just, first of all, talk about him. Talk about his talent. And there's the card right there. First of all, wonder what that would go for. And would it be a good buy right now?
That's
Good
a big
investment?
dollar thing. It's going to be placed in a random pack, and it's a 1-of-1. So depending on it stays in good condition, that's a huge dollar amount. And they're saying it's one of the more anticipated debut cards in the for MLS soccer anyway.
Very cool. You collect anything?
I was gifted a couple of cards, not Philadelphia. I have a signed Kevin De Bruyne one out from Manchester City before he made the move to Italy with Napoli. And then Tanner Tessman, actually a U.S. national player when he was with Dallas. But those are just two. I wonder if Kevin was expecting a DocuSign for his card.
How do we do this on my phone?
Yeah, how do I get this done? I'm amazed at how young the guy is. Obviously, he's been tossed into becoming an adult very quickly, and I think he's done a good enough job for this year. Quite frankly, I think the expectations are high, not just from within, but I would think also from the exterior, considering the move that's pending, right? Where I think once he turns 18, he's finally eligible to play for Manchester City. Obviously, his first year as a professional was mostly with Union 2, the MLS Next Pro side. Last year, he obviously increased the minutes with the big boys, the adults, with the senior team. And I would think that now the Manchester Cities of the world probably want to see more of him rather than just hear about his practicing habits, which are, as I understand it, incredible. He does some unbelievable things at practice against the Philadelphia Union senior team, but have to do that on the field on regular matches because there's no replacement for doing that. So I think the expectations are high. It's just what competition, right? Champions Cup coming up with CONCACAF. You also have Leagues Cup, which is what they're participating in, and the regular MLS season. There is no U.S. Open Cup for Philadelphia to participate in this year since they are competing in the other two. Which is typically where you see a lot of these performances or debuts, maybe for second string or young players to get their feet wet. So we'll see what Bradley Cornell throws him into, but certainly a high upside, and then he just needs to make good on it.
Yeah.
So you talked about where his next step is Manchester City, and during the break we were talking a little bit about trying to explain to folks that there's only a few clubs in the world that are like final destination places. Where the Union, it might be hard for someone here who's like an Eagles fan who knows like being an Eagle is kind of like being the ultimate. But most of these guys are looking to the next thing. I've even heard people say, hey, he may not even make it till he's 18 here. Man City may want him to go somewhere else. Like you never know how can you explain that a little bit to folks?
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things for the Philadelphia Union is that they are in Philadelphia in terms of the expectations. I think that just comes with the city. And I think what folks also forget is that the soccer world is just much bigger than the NFL, NBA, basketball, or the sport as a whole in terms of there are very, very few clubs that can actually go and pluck anybody from any one team in terms of money. And, they throw money around. A $6, $7, $8 million investment for some of these clubs is counting error on a spreadsheet. For the Philadelphia Union, obviously very different. Listen, I know that there are many players who have considered Philadelphia. I know there are many players that are in the roster today that considered Philadelphia and chose Philadelphia because of what it can do for their careers in terms of being the next stepping stone. And I certainly appreciated the approach of going and finding some of these guys in the Venezuelan league or out in Serbia in the first division, where you genuinely cannot see any film unless you're asking for it from the league or the teams themselves if they're not shopping the guy around. That I think that this is just part of the deal. Some teams do it a little bit different, obviously, in terms of the LA Galaxies and Los Angeles, or LAFC, I should say, where you see some of these big money splashes that are there for a year or two, or even look at the little Argentine down in Miami, really building for the next 2 years or 3 years until he leaves, but kind of makes you wonder, what does that look like for that team afterwards? Right, putting all their chips in there.
I think for many of the casual fans, like putting it again in Eagles' perspective, this offload of talent that many fans got used to seeing is like a Jalen Carter, an A.J. Brown, and a Lane Johnson leaving at the same time. That's a shock to the system to many fans. How do you reconcile that in terms of, we need names to attach our fandom to. We want to come back to the same when it's constantly turning like that. How do you keep a fan base?
I think it's accepting it in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the marketing team probably has a lot of work to do with some of these new names coming in and maybe elevating some of the names that are already there. But the reality is that there's nothing, to me anyways, more pure than being at the ground level with some of these players who are going to go on and play at some incredible level in the future. I think of a Julian Carranza, who obviously came from Argentina, played in Inter Miami very little, but really made his name in Philadelphia and went off to play in the Netherlands, now in Mexico. I think of a Kai Wagner. The Philadelphia Union plugged him from the 3rd division of Germany, gave him a start here in Philadelphia, earned his move to England, and now everybody in Birmingham City is singing praises for the man. So I don't think that there's anything cooler than to be at the ground level watching this.
I was watching this weekend, saw Brendan Aronson score a goal for Leeds, who's got them back in the Premier League. And he knows another homegrown here from the Union.
Yeah, and I think, once again, it continues to build that reputation that, sure, it's difficult for folks in the city of Philadelphia or really soccer as a whole, but the reality is that players appreciate having the ability to come and play their game, perfect their game, or enhance their game, and then know that the club will do well by them and giving them the best opportunity possible.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit, talking international, leads right into what we're talking about, 2026 and the FIFA World Cup. We're going to spend the rest of the program talking about that. How exciting is this for the city of Philadelphia, and what do you think it will do to elevate the game here in the city?
I honestly don't know that Philadelphia is quite ready for what's coming. I haven't been able to be part or be at any one country that has held a World Cup, but I know from reading and watching and being an avid just consumer of the sport, it changes lives. It changes paths for a lot of people once they finally experienced it. I know there were a lot of non-soccer watchers who ended up going to the Club World Cup in Philadelphia this past summer. Completely changed their mind. I mean, seeing some of these teams from Morocco do the things that they did at the link in terms of, sure, lighting up flares that maybe we're not supposed to be there, but what an image of what that culture can be and what a shock that can be to the system. And there's nothing like, I share this story often, but being in the subway and trying to make my way down to the link and running into 4 different nationalities, 5 different languages, all asking the same question of how do I get to the game, and trying to help people get there. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here in Philadelphia.
And multiplied.
Yeah, multiplied many times over. And selfishly, I'm from Bolivia, and Bolivia has a chance to make its way to Philadelphia actually for a match through the playoff, potentially having to knock out Andre Blake from having the opportunity to play here too. So it's, to me, an unbelievable experience that if you can be a part of it in any way, shape, or form, whether it's as a volunteer.
There's your Bolivia.
Yeah, there is Bolivia, yeah. Whether it's as a volunteer or attending one of the games, if you're lucky enough and can afford it, please spend it, go there, go watch, or find a group to watch it. It is unlike anything in the world. I experienced it in South America. Korea, Japan was the first one that I fully remember. Maybe France a little bit out in '98. But the 2002 World Cup, I remember being in South America, staying up till 2, 3 in the morning watching games as best as I could, and it stays with you forever.
All right, we're going to break down. We'll show you the slate of games coming up after the break. I want to get your thoughts on what your favorite slate and what match of the Philly stop is. Don't go away. More brotherly love. We're talking Philly soccer, FIFA World Cup. Just a couple months away. Don't go away. Welcome back to Brotherly Love FC. Chris O'Connell, Tom Loudon, and Jose Nunez with AAT Sports beat writer for the Philadelphia Union. Thanks for hanging in with us for this half hour.
I'm here for you.
Appreciate it. Let's talk. Let's finish up. Talk about FIFA World Cup. Can we show the games that are going to be played here in Philadelphia? I want to get your thoughts on what. If you had to pick one of them, one of those, what would the game you would pick here? We'll try to get it up in a second.
If I remember correctly, Haiti will be making its way to Philadelphia to play one of the matches. And
Brazil.
And I am a big Brazil fan. When they have the opportunity to play here, I can't believe that it's happening here. Honestly, I'm still sort of pinching myself, but the Brazil-Haiti game is just going to be unbelievable. Sure, you have a hometown connection with Danley Jean-Jacques.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
My goodness, what an opportunity for Danley to expose himself further. Sure, did wonderful things in France, earned his move to MLS, but being able to play against Brazil on a stage like this is just unbelievable. Never mind being able to do it just a few miles away from Subaru Park. It's going to be incredible for him, I'm sure, and his family.
And when you talked about, last segment, you were talking about people aren't ready for the fans and stuff. That's all Brazil fans. I mean, they're going to be out of control, I'm sure.
Brazil, I wouldn't discount some of these Caribbean fans, too, if they can get into the country. Obviously, there's some different conversations about that. But those Brazil fans, they are everywhere, and they are loud. So I'm excited to experience it. And who doesn't like a nice caipirinha with some grilled steaks as well?
How about U.S. men's team? There's a potential. What do you think? Do they have a shot? What are they looking like? Is the roster even set yet?
I don't think that roster is going to be set up until the last minute. I think performances like you mentioned, Tom, earlier, with like a Brandon Aronson might be a late addition if he wasn't already in the roster with some of these performances. And who knows what the injuries look like, to be completely honest with you, especially in the leagues that some of these players are playing in, being so physical. So do they have a shot? Absolutely. I think anybody does in home field. But I must admit the runway was unbelievably short for Mauricio Pochettino to come in and change his team into a contender. Not that it necessarily wasn't before, but that runway's unbelievably short for turning a roster into a World Cup winning roster. So maybe there's some good to that.
Now, in addition to Union, you cover all of MLS. It seems like he's opened up the roster more to give opportunities to MLS players. And he actually made a comparison to the 1980 U.S. hockey team, where he's not trying to build the best talent U.S. team, but a team. How important is that for the MLS to start getting that exposure on that level as well?
I think it's great as long as the players earn it, right? I don't believe that there's some ghost quota out there of MLS players that have to be on this roster, but for him to be willing to say that everybody has a shot, I think it's incredible. I know that in the past, you hear from players, especially within MLS, that they felt they needed to go to Europe. They felt that they needed to go elsewhere to have an opportunity to represent the nation. So to hear it from the coach himself and from the federation that, no, that isn't the case. Continue to play soccer as best as you can and you will have a shot, I think is an incredible thing.
As a journalist, how are you going to be covering the World Cup? And I don't know if you know your assignments yet or what you're going to be doing, but what are you going to be looking for? What are some of those storylines?
I think for me, sure, match reports happen left and right. Everybody's writing one. I think where I want to focus is just the cultural aspect. I genuinely mean it when I say that people need to get out there and experience it. And please experience it with people that you don't know and maybe don't even understand, because that cultural exchange is going to be incredible. And, I get that the average American doesn't get to travel as much as Europeans or South Americans per se. So to have all of that culture here in one city during this special time, drink it in. It's going to be incredible.
That doesn't necessarily mean go to a game either. There's
No.
lots going on.
Yeah, go to a soccer bar. Go and find somebody who's watching it and sit with them. There are going to be opportunities. I'm sure watch parties will be popping in left and right, and I'm sure there's plenty of places that don't realize how big this is going to be and how quickly they're going to jump in to make sure to capitalize on the financial investment that this can be for them. That opportunities, you will not be short of them.
Nice.
Finally, we got 30 seconds. Who's your favorite right now? If you had to pick someone, you pick a winner and pick someone you definitely want to see.
Brazil.
Yeah? Think they got it?
I think they got it.
All right, Jose Nunez, thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Tom, thanks again. We'll see you. We continue Brotherly Love FC next Thursday. Fox Local, we'll see you next week.